Okay, today's lesson, topic 1.4 is on distributive property. So if you'll take a look, the distributive property is actually just another step in simplifying expressions. Up until now, we've done some evaluating and we've done some combining like terms, but now we're going to take it one step further and we're going to talk about how to distribute. So if you'll look, this says use the distributive property to remove parentheses. And so what you're looking at here on example A is a situation where you have a set of parentheses with something inside that cannot be simplified. And if you'll notice, x plus 5, those are not like terms, so you cannot combine those and make it simpler. So the only thing we can do to make this more simplified is to remove those parentheses, and the best way to do that is to distribute. Now, if you don't know what the root word of distribute means, it means to give one to everyone or to share. In this case, we're multiplying this 2 times everything inside of this parentheses. So since this 2 is bumping the parentheses, we're going to multiply. So we're going to take 2 times x, and that's going to give us 2x. We're going to do 2 times positive 5, which gives us positive 10. And notice I have to put the plus in between. Once you've done that, you've gotten rid of your parentheses, and now you have simplified a little bit, even though those two can't be combined. So that's really as far as it'll go there. On this example, I have a 4 bumping the parentheses. So I'm going to take the 4 and I'm going to multiply it times everything inside. So 4 times x would be 4x. 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. So notice I have to put my minus sign in between to show that that's a negative 16. These are not like terms, so that's as simple as it can be. On this example, you're multiplying by 1/3. So you have to multiply 1/3 times everything inside. And just because it's fraction, it doesn't mean it works any differently. 1/3 times x is still 1/3 x. However, you've got to know how to multiply fractions. So 1/3 times 12. If you'll remember to multiply fractions, these both have to be fractions. And you're going to do top times top and bottom times bottom and reduce. Or you could think of it as 1/3 of 12. Well, 1/3 of 12 is the same as 4. Excuse me. You can also take 1/3 times 4, or excuse me, times 12 and put it into your calculator. And it will also tell you the answer is 4. So this would be your simplified version using distributing. Now, a lot of students look at example D and they say, I don't see what you're wanting me to do here. Well, think of that negative as an invisible 1 out front. So you actually are distributing by an invisible negative 1. So let's distribute through the parentheses. Now you have to be extra careful on this one because when you multiply by a negative, it changes the signs. So negative 1 times y would be negative 1y. Negative 1 times negative 5 is not negative, it's actually going to be positive 5. And if you wanted to write it in a more simplified way, you could actually write it without the 1 because the 1 is invisible. On part E, notice that you're not only distributing a 3, you're also distributing the negative that's in front of it. So let's take negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 7 is positive 21. And that's as far as you can go. On this one, negative 4 times x would be negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 5 would be positive 20. Please be careful when you're multiplying by negatives. It will change your signs. Negative 6 times x is negative 6x. Negative 6 times a positive 2 is a negative 12. And this h is going to work just like this one up here on D did. You've got an invisible 1 here, so negative 1 times x would be negative 1x, which you don't have to write the 1 there. And negative 1 times negative 2 is a positive 2. So that's basic distributing property. Now look at what's going to happen next. They're going to take what you know about distributing and combining like terms, and they're going to ask you to do it all in one thing. So on example A here, you have 4x minus 3 times x minus 2. That means the first thing we're going to want to do is get rid of our parentheses. And to get rid of those parentheses, we can't combine x minus 2 because they're not the same. They're not like terms. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to distribute to get rid of our parentheses. Well, this 4x really doesn't have anything to do with this because right now I'm distributing a negative 3. So I'm going to just simply bring the 4x down and hold it for later. Now I'm going to distribute negative 3 times x, which would be negative 3x, negative 3 times negative 2, which would be a positive 6. So now you have distributed to get rid of your parentheses. So the next step is, like they said, combining like terms. These two have x's in their terms, so we can combine those. So 4x minus 3x is 1x, which we don't have to write the 1. And 6 is a constant. So we just bring it down because it has no other constants to put with it. So this would be your simplified expression. So over on example B, looks a lot like example A. You have a set of parentheses that you need to distribute this negative 2 through. So first we're just going to bring the 6x down and we're going to distribute the negative 2. So negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 4, be careful, is a positive 8. Once you've distributed, now you combine things that are alike. And you'll notice these are both x's, so they're like terms. So 6x's minus 2x's would make 4x's, and 8 has no other constants to combine with. So that would be your simplified version. On C, the same setup. You first need to get rid of your parentheses, so we're going to distribute this negative 4 through our parentheses. So all I need to do right now is just hold that 7x. Negative 4 times x would be negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 5 is positive 20. Now I can combine like terms, which would come out to 3x plus 20. And on example D, the same thing. We're trying to get rid of these parentheses, so we're going to distribute first. So I'm going to bring down my 5x and distribute my negative 2. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times positive 5 would be a negative 10. These have the same terms, so we're going to add them or subtract them since it's 5x minus 2x and rewrite the minus 10. So what you've just done is distributed first and then combine like terms to simplify your work.